Jordan and Gretzky, Serena and Ruth. Remembering great ones is easy to do. But what about the no-names who spent their whole lives long snapping footballs and catching sack flies? They're guys, remember that guy. Remember that guy, remember that guy, remember that guy, remember that guy. They're just gonna remember some guys now.
25 pounds of pressure if someone is attacking you, and you could rip their ear off. They said it's the same amount of pressure to open up a pickle jar. And you can just remember that guy. The show we mine our memories for nuggets of nostalgia about peripheral players past and present. Hey there, folks. It is me, one of your hosts, James, here with number one, John Kruk supporter next to me.
I mean, John Kruk is just the embodiment of everything that is good and right about Philadelphia. I try to follow that example. Diaz back with you once again. We do have a very special guest with us today. He is also a man who has learned many things at the Franklin Institute, including the weight needed to rip somebody's ear off. Please introduce yourself.
You know what? I don't remember the last time I was at the Franklin Institute, but I do remember this weekend I listened to my first Phillies game in a long time, and I heard John Kruk talk about getting drunk in the booth and how they should get paid to do that because it'd be more entertaining for slow games. And it was against the Tigers that they were doing this. I think it was when Skubal was pitching and everything was going very quickly. I did hear Yankees broadcasters call Jock Peterson fat, and then he hit a game-tying home run in the ninth against Devin Williams, but it's not often that you hear someone just say, yeah, we should be allowed to get drunk in the booth when it's slow.
That is, of course, very special guest Xavier, but that is not the only guest that we've got here today, folks. Joining us once again, returning friend of the show, please reintroduce yourself to the masses.
Hi there, folks. It is I, your Graphics Extraordinaire Mike Canter, back for my third go-around with these three amazing guys.
Canter, we do have a guy coming up from you, but in the meantime, is there anything that's making memories for you right now?
I'm going to diverge a little bit from making memories. Tell a story instead. The Fred Merkel episode, and then again during the bracket when Merkel was brought up again, Diaz mentioned reading about that game in his favorite book as a kid. The book was not named.
Mm-hmm.
Diaz couldn't remember what it was. Here's the thing. I know who wrote that book. And when I say I know who wrote that book, I don't mean I am aware of the author. I mean that the author and my mom have been friends since preschool. Diaz's favorite book as a kid was called Baseball's Greatest Games, written by Dan Gutman. Dan has written dozens of children's books about baseball. He's also, I think he's written like 100 books. He's sold like 50 million books. And it so happens that Dan was the younger brother of my mom's best friend from grade school, who is still her best friend now. So she had literally known the author of Diaz's favorite kids book since the author was 3 years old.
I vaguely remember talking about this with you over like some pre-broadcast meal at least once, but the good thing about my memory is that it's so bad is that I forgot that I remembered that we had those conversations. So I just remembered again.
You can make the memory as many times as you want.
You remember that guy.
This must be what Drew Barrymore felt like in 50 First Dates.
I very strongly suggest, especially X and James, you all have tiny little babies. Maybe in a few years they can graduate to Dan Gutman's children's books about baseball. They are wonderful books. My favorite book growing up was Honus and Me, which was about a kid getting his hands on a T.J. Wagner card, and it transports him back in time to meet Honus. And Dan signed my copy of that book, and he made Jackie and Me and Babe and Me and all these great children's books for baseball. So, yeah, huge shout out to Dan Gutman for being Diaz's favorite author as a kid, with Diaz realizing it.
You know, it's the best authors, they don't do it for themselves. They do it for the impact that they give.
Oh shit! He wrote the kid who ran for president. And the sequel to The Kid Who Ran for President, which like almost has nuclear war take place in it. Very strange book.
My wife's nephew, went to their house for Christmas a few years ago, had like 5 of Dan's books on a shelf. Did not know that I knew him at all. He just happened to be a huge fan. I got him a signed copy of a Ruth Bader Ginsburg book that went over very well.
Well, shoutouts Dan Gutman. Shoutouts Dan Geitman.
Ah,
Fuck yeah, that's great. Diaz, Dan Gutman has made so many memories for you in his life. But who is making memories for you right now?
Well, I'm gonna spin this right around back to you, James, and also to Xavier, because we are recording this after we had a very successful Bachelor weekend for yours truly. We managed to get 16 guys out to a house in the Poconos. We had a lot of fun. We drank a lot of beers. We did a lot of... But one thing that we did do that I can talk about on this podcast is that if you have 16, that is a number that is divided by 2, and you get 8, and you can have an 8-on-8 wiffle ball game, which... Importantly, to clarify, there was one person on your team, James.
I was about to say 8 on 7. 8 on 7.
There was a person who slept through the whole thing. We will not say their name, but
So it did end up being an 8-on-7. I will say, I think that was probably to your advantage. I think it got your stronger bats through the order a couple times.
No, no denying here.
But look, it was everything that you could ever hope for in a wiffle ball game. There were arbitrary rules that decided how many bases each hit was. There was no base running, which I think was just a great executive decision to avoid injury. The fielders were not allowed to run. It was a fairly small field, so like if you had 8, you were able to cover it.
I threw out my arm after the 3rd inning.
Yeah, well, and then, obviously we can't talk about the game without talking about the game. And it was a classic back and forth game. Being that I was the Bachelor, my team was the home team, we batted second. Xavier was our starting pitcher. Gave up a home run to the first batter, but settled in. We went down 1-0. We then went up 6-2. A grand slam by Matt Paul, who I told, do not swing at the first pitch.
It felt backbreaking in the moment, specifically because of that. It really felt like, oh man, this is about to be a rough another hour.
It was really, but then, Tommy, found the strike zone again, which was a lawn chair. He found the strike zone, started getting some Ks. And I think it was the top 4th when everything started to unravel for us. We were up 6-2. Xavier started, walking a couple, gave up a couple singles. I think there was an error in there. Got to 6-5 when I had to come to the mound. I had to go to the righty, which was myself. And sure enough, in steps Nolan Dumont with the bases loaded, down 6-5. And he hits a first pitch, no doubt grand slam. It really hurt. The one saving grace is that though we did not come back, they got one more across. I was able to shut it down from there. We lost 6-10, but most crucially, Xavier, you did get credit for the loss.
I know. So 2 things about this. So in the 3rd inning, I gave up a couple runs, and it was 6-4, and then went back, and I essentially sidearmed because my arm was hurting, and I struck out James and Jose back-to-back, and I did not want to pitch anymore after that. And then in the 4th inning, I went out there anyway because you asked me to, and I could not get a single out, although Derek did drop an easy pop fly because he was drinking in one hand and was not paying attention. We did have a lot of that. I think at least 4 of the base runners I gave up were people not paying attention because they had beers in hand. But yeah, after that, it was just...
Important question. Were there people who were not drinking during the game?
Well, I don't drink, so I wasn't. I had a Red Bull, but that was about it. But
I wasn't during the game.
And I would say, like, if I had to average the BAC of all participants, I think the average BAC was probably about 0.06, 0.07. There were a couple that were more. Obviously, Xavier being a 0.00 brings it down. There were some that were maybe only had 1 or 2 beers. So it was a wide array. But look, I'm not going to blame the beers. I'm not going to blame the other things that we can't talk about on this podcast.
I'm going to blame the crack in the wiffle ball because after the top of the 4th inning, there was no scoring whatsoever. So through 3.5 innings, there were 16 runs scored. Then there were 0 for the next 3.5 innings. We had one inning where we had 3 straight 5-foot pop-outs to the pitcher. And I'm pretty sure that's something that happens when the ball is cracked. It just will not travel off the bat. It is kind of crazy how the offense went to nothing after that.
Yeah, no, there was good contact all around early on. And, you know, it's not like it was any one hit that gave it up. I will say the day before, we were just doing BP. Xavier, amazing BP. Incredible BP. I just wish there was a larger crowd when I was absolutely smacking the shit out of the ball, because it was really just the 3 of us when I was really getting the hang of it. But look, Xavier, I got to give credit. You adapted well. You went from a BP mindset to a strike him out mindset. And look, as the manager, I know in the stat sheet you get the L. As the manager, I should have listened to my pitcher. I wanted you to get one more inning. You couldn't get it. That's on me. That's on me as a manager, not listening to my players.
I'll take the K's, though, because I did really enjoy striking out Jose. That felt really good. And I'll remember that feeling. I also got an RBI, so I'll take that, too.
Yeah, good RBI knock, but, you know, do I remember Dan Gutman's name? I do right now. Largely, I don't. Will I remember for the rest of my life that in the wiffle ball game on my bachelor party, I lost 10-6 and gave up the grand slam that cost us the game? I will take it to my grave. There's nothing I will ever be able to do to win that game. But look, I wanted the game. Part of having a game is that you might lose the game. I would have been much more upset if the game had been thrown in any sort of way. And it certainly wasn't. Both teams played hard. My man.
You have to get Nolan to play, so then you can and tell Nolan that he has to pitch, so you can hit a grand slam off of him this weekend.
Well, I would say it is a much smaller group this weekend. But Nolan, who got the grand slam off of me, I'll be at his bachelor weekend, which will end the Sunday before. If you're listening to this on the day it comes out, there will be opportunities. Perhaps I will get my revenge. So, you know, stay tuned for next week to see if I got that. But in the meantime, a great bachelor weekend. I have to thank both of you for your contributions to that. And James, as the person who bested me, a sincere fuck you and congratulations.
I somewhat contributed to that team. Some memories being made for all 3 of us. Xavier, outside of that weekend, is there anything that's making memories for you right now?
Yeah, so a couple things. First off, nothing that ESPN ever says about the NFL can be trusted ever again, because the NFL now owns part of ESPN. I think that's the craziest conflict of interest in sports, but money talks. So ESPN now has every, incentive to just puff up the NFL even more than it does already. The NFL also banned smelling salts, which upset George Kittle, my favorite tight end, the people's tight end. The damn FDA saying that smelling salts don't work. I saw a comment that is kind of how I feel about it. Their brains are already fried. Let them use the salts.
Regarding the smelling salts, if you need to wake someone up that's, having issues with consciousness, that's whatever. I guess we should have things available for that. I was a little perturbed by not perturbed, just kind of disturbed by the fact that he has some before every single drive, apparently. Actually, no, I'm kind of okay with regulating taking a hit of smelling salts every single drive.
He takes them like I do Red Bull to get himself amped.
Have either of you ever sniffed smelling salts?
Yes, I have.
One time, and that is the only time I ever will.
Dog, they're fucking fun. It is. It is fun. I get it. Recreational, absolutely. Medicinal, no medicinal value. Recreational,
This is an interesting take on Jonathan. No, we should not have any medicinal use of this. Exclusively recreational use. It should not be anywhere near a medicinal use.
0% medicinal, just for fun.
But the thing that's actually making memories for me is something that I've been trying to understand for the longest time, and I still don't fully understand it, but it's the England versus India cricket test series that happened this summer. The Indian team toured England from June through August this summer, and they played 5 different test matches against England. And for, again, those who don't know, the test matches are the ones that take many days. So each of these is a 5-day event. So essentially they played 20 days of cricket. And it ended the best way any cricket thing could ever end. It was a 5-match series that ended tied 2-2 because the 4th test was considered drawn, which is apparently a tie is a different thing than a draw in cricket. There are many different ways that a match can end without it being a tie. So we had England win the first, India won the second, England win the third, drawn match for the 4th, India win the 5th. So it's a full-on tie. Nothing happens. There is no winner over this 2-month thing. But there were multiple big points of contention during this. In the 4th test, the one that was tied, or the one that was drawn, sorry, not tied, when they found out that it was going to be a draw, like they could not finish it, the England team asked the Indian team to just stop the match. They wanted it to be over. No, there's not going to be a winner. The Indian team said no because 2 of the Indian batters were close to scoring a century, aka getting 100 runs, and so they wanted to keep playing even though there was no purpose in the rest of the test. So they did that, and it caused a whole bunch of hatred by the English team to the Indian team.
So fair question. Let's say it's the end of the season of the 1946 season. And it's the bottom of the 9th in a game that the Red Sox are winning, but Ted Williams is hitting .399 and up to bat. Are you able in a baseball game to just opt into the bottom of the 9th to stat pad?
It would be crazy. There has to be some rule against it, but that would be so funny if you could do that.
I'm going to look that up. They would drill Ted Williams. There's no way they're going to push to him.
But the bigger controversy was in the 5th and final test, the one that India won to make sure that it was overall a drawn 5-series match. The bowler, Akash Deep, dismissed the batter, Ben Duckett, and he went over to him and put his arm around his shoulder. And apparently this is a massive no-no in cricket, to the point where they almost came to blows. And the English players wanted to fight the Indian players, and there were there was newspaper articles and massive commentary about this, because apparently if you go and touch a batter, it means you're showing him up, and you're the biggest piece of shit in cricket history, and you deserve to get the shit kicked out of you. So it's essentially Jose Bautista when he did the insane bat flip in the playoffs. Apparently, that's the equivalent of going over to the batter and putting your arm around him after you bowl him out. I'm learning all about how the things that can happen in cricket that upset people. And yeah, if you put your arm around a batter after getting him out, you're the biggest piece of shit of all time, apparently. To the point where you deserve to get hate crimed, according to some English pundits. So I'm trying to learn more about cricket because it seems so insane that it's just the perfect thing for this podcast. And no matter how hard I try, there's still more I need to learn that I just don't understand, but one day I will get there.
I love that you discovered the existence of unwritten rules, and you were immediately I need to see an itemized list of the unwritten rules. That's your approach to cricket here. But I appreciate you giving me a segue there by talking about pieces of shit, because I just want to be real for a second. Hey, I struggled writing up a Making Memories note today because everything kind of sucks all the time. And that is not just referring to everything, just sports kind of sucks. And every time I tried to find a story today, I just felt very tired. I felt very tired that when we learned there was going to be the first ever MLB female umpire, I was just oh man, can't wait to see all the terrible things that people say. I am tired of the Wall Street Journal pushing for Caitlin Clark to sue the league for fucking workplace discrimination.
That's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
It's just so it's exhausting. I'm so tired of that. I am so tired of people just banning trans people from swimming and chess and now fucking darts. And I am tired of people feeling the need to literally just insert a penis into the most successful women's sport in North America right now with the WNBA by throwing a dildo onto the court for a third time as of we're recording this. And you know what? Feels important to say as of recording this because it'll be a couple days. We might have a fourth. And I'm just very tired, and it has been difficult to do like making memories recently and to find fun things. And I appreciate the excellent things that all three of these guys have brought. And I do want to still try very hard in this moment. So I am actually Diaz, and I had this written before. I had finally come to some kind of like resolution, but I also want to touch on your bachelor party, which was a delightful weekend. And it was a weekend in which there weren't a lot of sports happening. And this is a group of 16 people who I would say all fall somewhere on the spectrum of meathead jock. Everyone's somewhere on there, varying levels, but you know, we're all on the spectrum.
I love Josh. I don't think he makes the spectrum.
Okay, he's the one end that we need to set a spectrum.
He is the sports fan. And then if there's meathead jock, I think like just casual sports fan.
All to say that this is a group of guys that often sit around and watch meathead jock sports, but there was not a lot of that. But what there was every morning, while I made breakfast for everyone, was the final 3 days of the Tour de France Femmes, now in its 4th year of existence. There have been other ones before that, but like they weren't actually allowed to use the name Tour de France until this one started up in 2022.
It's just like March Madness.
Precisely. And so every morning while making breakfast, we would have cycling on for hours, because it goes on for hours. And I was getting very into it, but I think it's safe to say, like, there's a few people in this group that would describe themselves as women's sports fans. There's no one but me in this group that would describe themselves as a cycling fan. And yet, I was pretty much, like, never alone in watching this. I was watching this at Pauline Ferrand-Pervot, I should mention. Killed it. Absolutely killed it. Won the last 2 stages in convincing fashion to take it. First French person to win anything in the Tour de France, whether officially affiliated or not, since 1989. It was one of the like non-official women's ones. Tour de France has not been won by a French person since 1985, officially. Bernard, All to say, I had people there that were engaged. They were asking questions about stages, about strategy, about like what was playing out on the screen, despite charitably like little to no background knowledge about all of this. And it thinking about this today, when everything else was feeling very tiring, did feel a little bit rejuvenating, because it was a reminder that to most people, the vast majority of people, because again, this is covering a lot of that meathead jock spectrum, sport is sport, and there is a acknowledgement that like it does matter, and that all of it matters to some extent, and that people who know that it matters and actually care will pretty much take in anything and don't give a shit about most of the stuff that is tiring. And so I just wanted to fixate on that for a moment. Anyway, let's change gears a little bit from that and instead remember a delightful guy, and that's going to come to us from you, Canter. Go ahead and lay it on us when you're ready.
Straight away, we're going to start off with my favorite sports trivia factoid ever.
This has been the tease to us, folks. I just want you to know, like, that is what we have been told about this guy. This is about to be the greatest sports trivia fact ever. So, a check has been written. I want to hear you cash it.
In the 1996 NBA draft, the 31st and 32nd picks were both held by the Philadelphia 76ers. The only team for which both of those selections played in the regular season was the Baltimore Orioles. The look on James's face is as if they have no idea what I just said.
Oh, wait, okay. Wait, I do know. I don't know if it's both of them, but if it is just one guy who did it, I know exactly who we're talking about.
Well, let's build a little suspense. I'm going to very quickly go through all 4 of the Sixers picks in 1996, because it's like the greatest collection of players by like average sports interestingness in the history of drafts. Let's start at the top. Allen Iverson. Okay, moving on. With the 48th pick, the Sixers took Jamie Fike. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He never played for Philly, but he did spend 5 seasons in the NBA, including 38 games with James's Spurs. After that, he competed in 7 events on the FLW Bass Fishing Tour.
Do like that.
He does not come up again in this story, but like, how am I going to not mention that? 32nd overall was Ryan Miner, who is a hoops All-American in Oklahoma. He was released by Philly after the preseason in '96. At that point, he embarked on his pro baseball career. He had already led the Sooners to a College World Series title. He played 3 seasons for the O's and 1 for the Expos, never posting a positive WAR in a season. But I mean, come on, that's a capital G guy, right? Still not who we're talking about. Finally, here we are. With the 31st pick in the 1996 NBA Draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select future Sixers legend and future Orioles legend Mark Hendrickson.
The crane. So the very first like internet stuff I ever did for sports in high school was make really bad MS Paint cutout images of Baltimore Orioles players with stuff just to post. I like probably in Camden chat comment boards or wherever. I do not remember where I was posting these. Just wherever I could find people were talking about the Orioles. And one, because Mark Hendrickson was called the Crane, was just a cutout of him in MS Paint superimposed over some marshlands and a flock of cranes. And I love Mark Hendrickson.
I have been dying to do this presentation because every single week I'm scared that you were going to take him instead. So, if you think that basketball team drafts 2 guys who play for the same baseball team is wild, I've got a draft factoid later that's almost as crazy as that. But we're going to rewind just a little bit. Mark Allen Hendrickson, he's born in Mount Vernon, Washington on June 23rd, 1974. His dad, Thomas, is a police officer. Tragically, he is killed by a drunk driver when Mark is 5 months old. But his mom, Barbara, does a great job of raising Mark and his older brother, Steve. After growing from 6'1" to 6'7" between his freshman and sophomore years at Mount Vernon High, Mark becomes a 2-time state champion in baseball and basketball. He's the Gatorade 91-92 State Player of the Year in basketball, and he also squeezes in an impressive tennis career. He's taken in the 13th round of the '92 MLB draft by Atlanta. He's the first Mount Vernon player ever picked in the draft. But instead of signing, he matriculates at the same college Steve is attending, Washington State. Mark is a 6'9" power forward, but he only plays for the baseball team as a junior and only in 8 games. He pitched in summer leagues, but pretty much never in college itself. But on the hardwood, he's a Pac-10 RIP all-freshman team selection. He's an all-Pac-10 first-teamer his junior and senior years. He graduates as the Pac-10's all-time double-doubles leader with 43. Obviously surpassed since then. He's still top 10 all-time at Washington State in points, field goal percentage, and boards. Stellar basketball career. He's enshrined in WSU's Hall of Fame in 2016. Now, let's go through his NBA career, then we'll jump back to baseball. He was hoping to get picked by the Sonics at 28th, but they traded their pick. So, as mentioned, he went 31st overall in one of the most loaded drafts ever. You got 4 Hall of Famers, you got Ben Wallace, who's not even drafted, you got 6 other All-Stars. But, unlike Ryan Miner, Mark does make the 76ers squad. Philly was actually his second best option. Both of his parents were originally from York, PA. Alas, he played just 29 games in 96-97, starting 1, averaging around 3 points and 3 rebounds a game, which would also end up being basically how he fared for his whole career. He didn't get another contract with the Sixers. He was signed and quickly waived by the Grizzlies. Nobody else in the NBA took a flyer on him. So he went to the CBA to play for old friends of RTG, the Lacrosse Bobcats. Can anybody else remember when the Lacrosse Bobcats have been brought up on the show?
I think this was me. I think this was one of my guys. We've done 200 of these. I can't remember, but I know that name. I think it was one of my guys.
Well, if one of your guys was Ed O'Bannon, which
That was a
wasn't me.
Diaz.
It was
Ed O'Bannon
Diaz
is a
one.
Diaz.
Okay.
There we go.
there you go.
Labor rights hero.
So
Love it.
Mark plays with them in '97. I don't think he is teammates with Ed O'Bannon. I looked it up. He played with them in '98, but he gets picked up by the Kings. He plays 48 games in '97-'98. Again, 3 points, 3 boards a contest. The next summer, he doesn't get a Kings deal, and there's a lockout looming, so he goes back to lacrosse. He then plays 22 games for the Nets. He actually got a career-high 5.5 points a game on a career-high 18.1 minutes per game, but it's not enough to get a new deal. Around Christmas of '99, he's signed by the Cavaliers. He plays sparingly in 10 games. He goes back to the Nets on a 10-day contract. He played 24 minutes over 5 games, scored 1 point, and that's possibly the end of his basketball career. I say possibly because Wikipedia lists a third stint with lacrosse, but it's the only thing in this story that I can't find a reference for. Regardless, if you need further proof that, hey, maybe this guy isn't great NBA talent, the teams he was on and couldn't stick around with are absolutely terrible. Of the 5 teams, including 2 stints with the Nets, none of them even won 40% of the games in the seasons that Mark played. So, clearly, this isn't going to work out for Mark, so he quits hoops to focus on baseball. And let me tell you,
Wait, I
he's
need
a
to jump in real
left-hander.
quick here. Cantor, I need to
Please.
jump in real quick. I did confirm. Casey Frank from the American Exports episode did play for the lacrosse Bobcats. I did have a guy on the Bobcats.
Hell yeah!
It does seem like they were the same year. I'm trying to find out if they ever played in the same game. I have been unable to do so. But I knew I had a guy on the lacrosse Bobcats.
Love that. James, it's your turn. You gotta find somebody.
This is now the category for next season, I've decided.
9 episodes solely of lacrosse Bobcats. Man, what a season
If
that
I could
will be.
talk about Joe Flacco for 8 episodes, we can talk about fucking the lacrosse Bobcats for 9. No problem.
I believe in you.
Off by 1 year. Hendrickson played 99-2000. Frank played 2000-2001. Both as forwards, I'm going to assume that Casey Frank was Mark Hendrickson's replacement, because that makes me happy.
I'm all about it. So, Mark, he's a 6'9" pitcher. He's got a cut fastball, a changeup, and a curve. He's a lefty. So, after getting picked in '92 by Atlanta, in '93 he gets drafted again, 21st round by the Padres. Even though he didn't play in college, he was only doing semi-pro baseball that season. But again, he doesn't sign. He was taken again by Atlanta in the '94 draft in the 32nd round and does not sign. The next year, it was the Tigers' turn to take him all the way up in the 16th round. He's now been drafted in 4 consecutive MLB drafts, but as he was a dominant hooper in college by this point, of course he doesn't sign. But, hey, this is a guy with a ton of athleticism. He's got summer baseball experience. He's an intimidating 6'9" southpaw. So a few weeks before the Sixers take him, the Texas Rangers select him in the 19th round of the '96 MLB draft. So this is ridiculous, right? Getting drafted 5 times. I'll let you guess if he took the Rangers offer. We're in Greg Vaughn territory now. I have tried to research how many guys have been drafted that many times. I could not figure it out. Getting picked 5 times is absurd. In 1997, the writing is on the wall. Though he was a bit player for the Sixers, he still earned $250,000 prorated. It's far more than he would get toiling away in the minors. So finally, all of the MLB teams pass on him. Until the 20th round when he's taken by the Blue Jays. And he signs. He has been drafted 6 times, which is something I have literally never seen before. And the only time he takes the bait is when he's an active NBA player.
So, like, Danny Ainge exists, but what is your relationship with the baseball team while you're on the basketball team?
I was actually just about to get to that. He, much like other two sports stars we've seen, pretty much he plays the basketball season, and his contract says he can report to whatever minor league team he's on once the season is over. His pro baseball career starts in '98. He's in the Blue Jays minor league system, like I said, during the Hoops offseason. At High A Dunedin in '98, he has a 2.37 ERA in 49 and a third. He gets to Double A in 2000, Triple A in 2001, and in late 2002, he completed a pretty rapid ascent to the majors. Finally, here's a man who's played for 4 NBA teams. A man who's been drafted in Major League Baseball 6 times, and might add overall 7 times. A man who, during and after his NBA career, still had to work his way up from A-ball to reach the big leagues. He is a 28-year-old MLB rookie, and he's finally about to do it. Mark Hendrickson is going to be the 13th player to ever appear in both of these huge leagues. It's August 6th, 2002. Over 25,000 fans are in the Sky Dome to see the Blue Jays host the Mariners. After a stellar 7 innings by future Hall of Famer Roy Halladay, Mark Hendrickson takes the mound with a healthy 13-2 lead. Very clearly, I'm setting this up to be a disaster. Why would I tell you the Blue Jays had an 11-run edge if he's not about to blow it? Psych! He starts the top of the 8th and his major league career with a swinging strikeout of future 3-time All-Star Carlos Guillen. I mean, I can't imagine how it must feel to play pro baseball, much less after playing another pro sport, coming in for an incredible pitcher who's going to be in the Hall someday, and immediately getting a K. If I'm Mark Hendrickson right now, I am on cloud 9. Double psych. The rest of his appearance goes walk double, single, walk double. His final line reads 1/3 of an inning, 5 runs allowed, 135 ERA.
We love the double misdirection. Even if you have 135 ERA, you still pitch in the majors and enough to get an ERA.
Well, hey, all you tell people is, yeah, I have a 135 ERA.
As Diaz would say, what do you call the worst ever Major League Baseball player? A Major League Baseball player.
The few, the proud, the Major League Baseball players.
So the rest of the Jays pen doesn't really fare any better than Mark. They do hold on to win 14-13, but if I'm Mark Hendrickson, maybe I'm questioning my decisions in this moment with my 135 ERA. Triple psych! The rest of his rookie season is amazing. 11 more relief appearances, 11 innings, he gives up just 2 runs. At the end of the season, he moves into the rotation for a team that, not terrible, was well out of the playoff race. They finished 78-84, but Mark gets 4 starts, he pitches 26 innings, he gives up just 3 earned runs for a 104 ERA and a whip of 0.769, nice, and 13 strikeouts against 5 walks. He's never a dominating pitcher. His fastball tops off at around 92. His 5.2 strikeouts per 9 as a rookie are about equal to his career average. But he has great control, only walking 2.9 batters per 9, which is actually higher than his career average of 2.7, and he allows just 1 homer in his 36.2 inning rookie campaign. Now, just for fun, let's take a classic James-style detour, briefly discuss some of the other 12 guys who have played in both NBA and MLB. The most recent, besides Mark, was, as James already mentioned, the incredibly hateable Danny Ainge, who has a -2 WAR as a Blue Jays infielder from 79 to 81. Good. Some other guys far cooler than him. Dick Grote. I know he's been mentioned on RTG in the past. He was an MVP and World Series winning shortstop after playing a season for the Pistons. On the other end of the spectrum, we all know Dave DeBusschere, Hall of Fame forward for Pistons and Xavier's Knicks. He pitched in 36 games over 2 seasons for the White Sox. And last, but perhaps most notable, Chuck Connors played 53 NBA games and 67 MLB games, and starred in a number of TV westerns in the 50s and 60s, most notably The Rifleman. Chuck Connors was a big actor after being a two-sport athlete.
Classic triple threat. And also from the two sports where you could be referred to as a classic triple threat.
So, back to Mark Hendrickson. The reason I put the aside in there is because after his rookie season, he never has the same success. That's pretty much his best season. I figured I'd throw in some highs before getting to the lows. You can call it a quadruple psych if you so desire. He was the Blue Jays' third starter for all of 2003, but he wasn't effective. Barely 5 innings per contest. Gave up at least 2 earned runs in 27 of his 30 starts. And though his record is 9-9, it comes with a 5.51 ERA and WAR of 0.1. In fact, his first game of 03 was just as disastrous as his first game of 02. He gives up 7 runs on 10 hits in just 1.2 innings to the Yankees. One bright spot, in just his third career at-bat, he became the first Blue Jays pitcher to ever hit a homer, going yard against the Expos' Sun-Woo Kim in an All-Canada matchup. It was his only homer in 97 MLB at-bats, though he did have 3 doubles and a triple. In the 2 decades since, only Marcus Stroman joined him in the Toronto Pitcher Hits a Dinger Club. It's safe to assume that club will always have just 2 members. In December, he's traded to the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. His 2014 season was 10-15, 4.81 ERA, 94 ERA+. Not lighting the world on fire, but he's a piece of the rotation. And in 2005, he has the best record of his career, 11-8. To go with the worst stats of his career, 5.90 ERA, 74 ERA+. It's funny how that happens in baseball. So he starts the 2006 season with a complete game shutout. Sure, why not? He allows 3 hits and 1 walk. He strikes out 5 Orioles in a 2-0 win. He follows that up by immediately going on the 15-day DL with a shoulder injury. This dude, he just can't decide if he's gonna be great or bad, or elite or injured. You never know with Mark. For this one season, though, 2006, he's legitimately a good pitcher. In 13 starts, 3.81 ERA, 1.20 ERA+, 2.2 wins above replacement. He had another complete game win against the Tigers, spoiled by 1 unearned run. Finally coming into his own, the Rays reward his improvement by, you guessed it, trading him to the Dodgers the day after pitching 8 innings. He joins LA's rotation for a couple of months, 5.07 ERA, gets moved to the bullpen, where he was actually a solid contributor. 10.2 innings of relief, 1 earned run. He had a long relief game of 4 innings in which he only allowed 1 base runner and struck out 8. This would also be the only time Mark's team ever made the playoffs in either of his pro sports, and the Dodgers were swept in the NLDS by the Mets. So Mark never won a playoff game. He did pitch in all 3 of those NLDS games. 0 runs in 2.2 innings, not bad.
They can't blame him.
Certainly not. His 07 with the Dodgers has a career high 6.8 Ks per 9, career low 2.1 walks per 9, and a career high salary of just under $3 million. But he kept getting flip-flopped from the rotation to the bullpen. He finished with a 5.21 ERA, and the Dodgers didn't re-sign him. He goes to the Marlins in 2008. He's not that successful. The most notable part is giving up Ken Griffey Jr.'s 600th career homer. Which brings us, finally, to James's Orioles. He signs a one-year deal with the O's in 2009, which was respectable. 53 games, including 11 starts, 6-5, 4.37 ERA, 1.04 ERA+, and his only career save, 3 scoreless innings against the Yankees. He signs another one-year deal with Baltimore, but alas, he regressed again in 2010. 1-6, 5.26 ERA in 75 innings of middle relief. He was released, but come on, you know Mark can't quit just yet. He signs a major league deal with a spring training invite. He eventually makes it back to the O's in 2011, but in 11 innings, 5.73 ERA, 1.9 whip, that's not going to cut it. Speaking of getting cut, that's what happens to him on September 12th, and he didn't play at all in 2012, so yeah, that's the end of his career. Nah, just kidding, he signed another free agent deal with the O's the next year, after completely being out of baseball the year before. He makes 40 relief appearances for AAA Norfolk as a 38 and 39-year-old. He plays really well. ERA just above 3, whip just above 1. Unfortunately, not enough for a call-up. No major league organization calls him either. So, approaching age 40, he said, screw it, and went to the Atlantic League's York Revolution for 2014, going back home to York. And he absolutely kills it. 1.54 ERA, sub-1 whip. And so this guy, who was not a particularly good MLB pitcher, gets one final spring training invite from the Orioles in 2015. He's released on March 16. Mark 16, why not? He hangs up his cleats for good. His MLB career lasted a total of 328 games over 10 seasons. He pitched 1,169 nice innings with a less nice 5.03 ERA and 89 ERA+. He does this with 666 career strikeouts, which makes him the only Devil Rays pitcher to have 666 career Ks.
Was that the best one? Because that's really good. That's the one you should lead with as the best one.
I was sitting on that one for a long time. Four pitchers total have ended their careers with 666. The other 3 never played for Tampa. This story is just full of all of my favorite factoids. And again, unlike the guy Bunel here, I'm not a Sixers fan, I'm not an Orioles fan, I'm just a fun stats fan. So, Mark Hendrickson has been what you might call a subpar professional athlete twice, but that's still absurd. He was a professional athlete twice. He hangs on to play 14 combined seasons at the highest level of 2 different sports. He was the last one to do it, at least in that specific combination. He's the only one who's done the last 40 years. That's crazy impressive. When asked later if he would try a 2-sport career in hindsight, he says, quote, I was never the most talented. I didn't have any skill set that stood out as great, but my hand-eye coordination was off the charts. I picked up every sport rather easily, and I would do it again.
I think it helps when you're 6'8". I think that helps some of those sports.
Well, and he
Doesn't
was
hurt.
6'8" then, but hey, guys, I'm sorry, I need to let you know, both baseball and basketball reference him as an incredibly nice 6'9".
We'll take it.
You know-
We know they're lying, but we'll take it.
I did. I said 6'9" earlier, and it didn't even occur to me. Mark settles right back in York, PA. He becomes a pitching coach with the Orioles low A affiliate, the Aberdeen Ironbirds, in 2017 and 2018. But the passion just wasn't there anymore. Instead, he chose to focus on his family. He and his wife have 4 daughters, ranging in age from 7 to 31. He currently has 2 grandkids. He coaches his younger kids' basketball teams. He said that after his NBA career ended, he didn't step on a basketball court for years, and it was only seeing his daughters enjoy the sport that made him return to basketball at all. He also owns a real estate company delightfully named Major League Properties. He does some public speaking, and that's about it. That's the whole story. He's enjoying the life of someone who just wants to hang with his kids, and I would imagine he'd be happy to be remembered as a guy.
I want to go back to when you referred to him as subpar, because that's where I feel like we need to zoom in for 1 second, because like he finishes with positive wins against replacement, and I'm double checking his win shares. He finishes with positive win shares. Like, this was a player that was par, not subpar, just par. There have to be guys out there that are par, and I think at the level of par, that is where you most often you find your guys. You find the dudes who's like, he almost half of his appearances in baseball are as a starter, half are as a reliever, you know, a 5.04 career ERA, like call it 5. He is a mediocre dude, and mediocre's not bad. In the bell curve of all athletes, most are gonna be mediocre. And he was, at the highest level, a mediocre athlete, and I think that's great. And also, he signed 5 different contracts with the Baltimore Orioles. So, like, just all of those years that he was coming, because he was there for some rough seasons. He was there for the last 3 seasons of the 14-year losing season streak, 2009, 2010, 2011. He is not part of any of the winning seasons the next 5 years. And just like, there was some kind of, all right, well, you know, we're losing, but Mark Hendrickson in here. At least we're going to get through these next 4 innings. Like, he came in mop-up duty, and he mopped up successfully. There's a lot to be said for a guy that can come in and genuinely just mop up and deal with the shit for the rest of a game in which you know you're already going to lose.
For some reason, it didn't occur to me until you said he signed 5 contracts with the Orioles. I mean, that's got to be close to the most contracts ever signed with the Orioles, right? That has to be up there.
I'm trying to think, and like, there's no... if we're going back to like the reserve clause years where you sign a new one every year, I'm sure somewhere there. But like, yeah, in the modern age, probably.
Right. If
gosh, I'm trying to think of dudes who just hung on forever.
Right. Like, if you consider each instance of arbitration as also its own contract, then yeah, there probably are other guys. But if we consider, like, okay, you entered as a rookie, the next, like, non-arbitration.
All as a free agent. All as a free agent is the thing.
Exactly. It's got to be up there. It feels like it's not something we'll resolve right now, but it is something I'm curious about.
The funniest part to me, well, there are about a million different funny parts, but I love the top of his baseball preference page when you read these 6 times he got drafted. And I'm full screen on my laptop right now. The left side just says Pullman, Washington at the start of every single row. Pullman, Washington, Pullman, Washington, Pullman, Washington. That delights me.
Wazoo. No, I mean, look. There's no need for me to be cute about this. I've made my feelings about Mark Hendrickson known.
What sounds do cranes make, James?
I don't know. I'm completely making this up. I know what sounds herons make. That's a much more like kind of just whistling cry on the wind. I spent a lot of time next to the water before work to try and ground myself. Look, Mark Hendrickson feels great. I enjoy this. Now, I am biased, as will Diaz, the Sixers fan, presumably be. I don't know how he's feeling. But, Xavier, you are the one objective one here.
I like it. I like it a lot. I like the dude who was drafted 7 times. Like, I don't think you can beat that again based off of, you know, the changes to the drafts that have been made. So, if that is a record, like, no one else will be able to top that. And also, he played for the Lacrosse Bobcats. This will be the third Lacrosse Bobcat in the Hall, which is kind of insane. That's got to be up there for most from a non-professional or non-top level sport, or non-top level team, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, we literally will not have another chance to induct a person who is both an Orioles legend and a Sixers legend. Like, maybe there's like maybe we'll find like a season ticket rep that, like, you know, started with the Sixers and went to the Orioles and has an amazing story. And maybe that way we'll find it. But as far as a person who took the court/field for both franchises and performed so averagely for both, I don't think we'll ever find another one.
Well, then Diaz, I think it's time to give some honors.
Look, it is time to give some honors, because when we talk about Mark Hendrickson, he is a man of many teams, but perhaps no true home. He is the hitter of the first home run in Rays history. He is the giver of the 600th home run in Ken Griffey Jr. history. He is the scorer of presumably at least one assist from Allen Iverson. I have to think at least one happened along the way. He is a Sixers legend. He is an Orioles legend, but he is now, most importantly, a Guy legend. Welcome to the Hall of Guy, Mark Hendrickson.
Welcome, Mark. A guy that played with both Allen Iverson and Adam Jones, to you and I, Diaz, is powerful. Canter, thank you for bringing Mark Hendrickson. He is not a guy that immediately comes to mind, but he's a perfect guy that you brought him up, so I appreciate you doing that. Some other folks that we appreciate are producer Craig and all the coders behind him, as well as Don Ham, our musical director, who made that lovely theme music. Certainly appreciate both our guest and our very special guest and my co-host for all being here. But in terms of being here, the person I may be most appreciative of is you, dear listener. Thank you for being here once again. If you want to check in on anything that we've got going until the next time that we all gather, you can find everything about the show at bit.ly/rememberthatguy. Hey, maybe tell someone to check that link out. Share it with a friend, rate, review, all that good stuff. Stream Elite. And that is just about everything that I have this week until we come back with a very special episode next week to celebrate a very special milestone. Anything from you all on the way out?
Nothing for me.
And I appreciate you fine folks having me on.
We always love having you.
It has been a pleasure to have you, my friend. And I, during this pleasurable time, have been one of your hosts, James.
I've been the very special guest, Xavier.
I've been Graphics Extraordinaire Mike Canter.
And I'm Diaz, and I've got to tell you, Canter, it's great we have you, because we just have some breaking news. They finally defined what GIF stands for. It's not graphics, it is Guy interchange format.
It does still make it GIF.